Her voice said she loved you, but her eyes seemed distant. Her touch felt automatic. Her presence felt like a chore. And you, in silence, tried to convince yourself that everything was fine because hearing "I love you" is comforting. But that's where the most dangerous deception begins, when a man starts believing more in the words he hears than in the actions he sees. Seneca wrote, "It is not fortune that makes the man, but how he acts in its presence." In love, it's not the speech that reveals the truth. It's what a person does when they have the freedom to hurt and choose not to. It's when she could flirt but holds back, when she could disappear but stays, when she could lie but chooses to be transparent. Love shows itself in the ego's omission, in the restraint of impulse, in the silent awareness that the other matters. And here's where many men go wrong. They focus on romantic gestures and ignore the subtle cuts, the unexplained absences, the silences that scream. They ignore the growing discomfort inside every time she does something that hurts, but then comes back with a soft, "Forgive me, it's just how I am." You forgive, but lose pieces of yourself, slowly, quietly. This video isn't here to feed your anger, nor to teach manipulation tactics. This video is a mirror, meant to force you to face, with clarity and firmness, everything you've been avoiding. Because deep down, you already knew. You felt something was wrong, but wanted to believe it was love. The problem is that a man who ignores the signs ends up trapped in a bond that suffocates. And worse, he starts blaming himself, thinking the fault is his. But today, you're going to stop. You're going to breathe. You're going to remember who you are. You're going to observe with stoic eyes, with calm clarity and deep self-respect. And you'll learn that real love doesn't need to be asked for, explained, or begged. Because when a woman truly loves you, she never does what you're silently allowing. And you know that. Deep down, you've always known. Now it's time to remember. There are words that confuse more than they clarify. "I love you, but I need some time." "You're perfect. The problem is me." Phrases said with a soft voice, teary eyes, maybe even followed by a hug. But at the same time, she's flirting with other men, disappearing for days without explanation, ignoring your messages like your presence is disposable. She says she loves you, but treats you like a detail in her life. And you, trapped in this paradox, begin to doubt your own perception, because her words say one thing, but her behavior screams another. So you try to be more understanding, more present, more loving. You think maybe she's just confused, hurt, busy, tired. You believe if you just give a little more, she'll finally see who you really are. But she already sees. She knows exactly who you are, and what she sees is someone who accepts less than he deserves. And that's the cruelest part. She only keeps hurting you because you won't walk away. Love without respect is fantasy. It's an illusion dressed in the perfume of passion. And the most silent pain a man carries is this: realizing, too late, that he was fighting for something that only existed in his hope. Because love is not a word thrown into the wind. Love is the choice not to hurt, even when it would be easy to. If she says she loves you, but disrespects you, it's not love. It's convenience. It's disguised attachment. It's emotional comfort at the expense of your stability. And you need to feel the weight of that without running from it. Because only when you face the pain with clarity do you start to break the cycle. The cruelest lie is not the one she told you. It's the one you told yourself just to avoid being alone. But loneliness with dignity is strength. Presence without respect is humiliation. And you already know which one is yours. Her voice said she loved you, but her eyes looked distant. Her touch felt automatic. Her presence felt like an obligation. And you, silently, tried to convince yourself that everything was fine, because hearing "I love you" is comforting. But that's where the most dangerous illusion begins, when a man starts to believe more in the words he hears than in the actions he sees. Seneca wrote, "It is not luck that makes the man, but how he acts in the face of it." In love, it's not the words that reveal the truth. It's what someone does when they have the freedom to hurt you and choose not to. When they could flirt or see but refrain. When they could disappear but stay when they could lie, but choose to be honest. Love is shown in the restraint of the ego, in the silence of impulses, in the awareness that the other matters. And here is where many men fail. They look at the romantic gestures and ignore the little cuts, the unexplained absences, the silences that scream. They ignore that inner discomfort that grows every time she does something that hurts, and then says, "Forgive me, it's just the way I am." You forgive, but you start losing pieces of yourself. Slowly, in silence. This video isn't here to feed your anger, nor to teach tricks of seduction. This video is a mirror, one that forces you to face with clarity and strength everything you've been avoiding. Because deep down, you already knew. You felt something was off, but you wanted to believe it was love. The problem is that a man who ignores the signs becomes trapped in a bond that suffocates him, and worse, starts blaming himself, thinking the fault is his. But today, you're going to stop. You're going to breathe. You're going to remember who you are. You're going to look with stoic eyes, with grounded clarity and self-respect. And you're going to learn that real love doesn't need to be begged for, explained, or pleaded with. Because when a woman truly loves you, she never does what you've been silently allowing. And you know that. Deep down, you've always known. Now it's time to remember. There are words that confuse more than they clarify. I love you, but I need some time. You're perfect. The problem is me. Phrases spoken in a soft voice, with teary eyes, maybe even followed by a hug. But meanwhile, she flirts with other men. She disappears for days, without explanation. She ignores your messages as if your presence were disposable. She says she loves you, but treats you like a footnote in her own life. And you, stuck in this paradox, start doubting your own perception, because her words say one thing, but her actions scream something else. So you try to be more understanding, more present, more loving. You think maybe she's just confused, wounded, busy, exhausted. You think if you give a little more, she'll finally see who you are. But she already sees. She knows exactly who you are. And what she sees is a man who accepts less than he deserves. And here's the cruel truth. She keeps hurting you because you don't walk away. Love without respect is fantasy, an illusion dressed up in the scent of passion. And the quietest pain a man carries is this, realizing too late that he was fighting for something that only existed in his own hope. Because love is not a word tossed in the wind. Love is the choice not to cause pain, even when you have the power to. Love is presence, when it would be easier to leave. It's gentleness, when ego demands revenge. If she says she loves you but disrespects you, then it's not love, it's convenience. It's attachment wearing a mask. It's emotional comfort built on top of your instability. And you need to feel the full weight of that without running. Because only when you face the pain with clarity do you begin to escape the cycle. The cruelest lie isn't the one she told you. It's the one you agreed to live, just to avoid being alone. But solitude with dignity is strength. Presence without respect is humiliation. And you already know which path to take. A woman may say she loves you, with words, kisses, and moonlit promises. But what really reveals her love is the limit she imposes on herself, the brake she pulls when she knows something could hurt you. Because someone who truly loves doesn't need to be controlled. She controls herself. True love is born from empathy, from the awareness that the other feels, suffers, breaks, and that alone is enough for certain behaviors to never happen. In psychology, they call this emotional containment. In real life, it's simpler. It's the intimate decision not to cross the line, even when the urge is there, even when the opportunity appears, even when ego begs to take over. A woman who loves you doesn't disappear out of whim. She doesn't flirt with others just to feel desired. She doesn't tear you down in public to look powerful. She doesn't treat your vulnerability like weakness. She might get angry. She might disagree. She might ask for space. But she'll never turn that into emotional punishment. She'll never use your pain as a stage to display her power. Because real love isn't just about feeling. It's about protecting. And that takes something most people don't practice. Self-control. If she crosses the boundaries that hurt you and then says, "I didn't realize," be careful. Love isn't measured by intention. It's measured by attention. When love exists, there's care. There's a silent kind of vigilance. She observes how you react, feel, change, and chooses not to be the source of your instability. Because love without boundaries isn't freedom, it's negligence. Love that crosses the line into pain isn't love, it's ego feeding off the other person. Love that wounds while claiming to love is just emotional hunger wearing perfume. And the man who understands this starts to clearly distinguish between someone who's with him and someone who's simply using him to fill a void. She says she loves you, but keeps breaking unspoken agreements built through looks, care, consistency. She disappears without explanation. Her mood shifts like changing clothes. She provokes jealousy. She pushes you away, then comes back as if nothing happened. And all of this follows a pattern, because none of it is accidental. Behind the emotional chaos, there's a silent test. She's measuring how much you love yourself. It's an unconscious test, but it's real. A kind of emotional radar that many women have. They notice when a man is willing to swallow discomfort just to keep the connection. They sense when he's ready to abandon himself just to maintain the peace. And the more he accepts, the more she pushes, not out of cruelty, but instinct, because human beings test limits to see how far they can go. She wants to know, will you bend, or will you stay firm? Will you try to please, or will you take a stand? Will you tolerate disrespect in hopes that she'll change, or will you make it clear that your worth isn't negotiable? And that's where many fall, because they believe real love requires patience. And yes, it does. But not the kind of patience that tolerates everything. The kind that waits for maturity without sacrificing dignity. If you're waiting for her to change, but you haven't changed your stance, you're not loving, you're abandoning yourself. Her behavior will conform to your lack of boundaries. The more you stay silent, the more she learns she can act without consequence. The problem isn't what she does, it's what you allow. And this isn't about pride, it's about self-respect. If you bend over hoping to be chosen, you're teaching her that you don't deserve to be prioritized. You don't need to beg for respect. You need to become someone who never allows himself to be tested to the point of humiliation. Because the man who loves himself sets boundaries that don't need to be explained. They are felt, and the right woman recognizes that in the silence of your firmness. Sometimes, the hardest truth to see is the one right in front of you. You just don't want to look. Because it hurts, because it shatters the illusion, because you invested time, desire, presence. But there are behaviors that leave no room for doubt. There are actions that need no translation. And a woman who acts like that does not love you, no matter what she says. If she disappears for days and comes back like nothing happened, if she uses silence as punishment, emotionally punishes you just because you didn't do what she wanted. If she provokes you publicly just to watch your reaction, as if your discomfort was some twisted game. If she compares you to other men, implying you're not enough. If during your hardest moments she's not there, not supporting, not holding, not standing beside you, then stop, breathe, and understand that's not love. That's emotional control. That's manipulation. That's cowardice disguised as relationship. And the more you try to justify her behavior, the further you drift from yourself. Because the problem isn't just what she does, it's what you allow while hoping she'll change. She won't change. And if she does, it won't be out of compassion. It'll be out of interest, out of fear of losing you, out of strategy. And true love doesn't grow from the fear of loss. Real love comes from presence, from loyalty that doesn't need to be demanded. The man begging for crumbs of affection forgets he was born to be whole. You need to break that cycle with the firmness of someone who understands that hope without reciprocity is an emotional prison. Is it hard to walk away? Yes, but it's harder to stay in a bond that disconnects you from yourself. It's harder to look in the mirror and not recognize the man staring back. More painful to realize that deep down you already knew, but chose to look away. Today, don't look away anymore. See what's in front of you with clarity, with courage, with the silent strength of someone who chooses peace over illusion. There's a kind of language that never lies. It doesn't need rehearsing. It doesn't rely on pretty words. It's the language of the body, of gestures, of silence that holds. Because when a woman truly loves you, even the way she looks at you changes. Her gaze doesn't pass through you, it stays with you. Her touch isn't rushed, it's calm. Her presence isn't loud, it's consistent even in silence. She doesn't need to always be by your side, but you feel she's with you. There's something invisible holding the bond in place. A kind of care that shows up in the small things. She listens when you speak. She respects your space without distancing herself. She offers security without suffocating. Her mind doesn't try to control you. She wants to understand you, not because you're a puzzle, but because real love seeks to understand without invading. But the woman who fakes love and acts out of ego, she's like an unstable wave. She laughs loudly with others, but ignores you when you need support most. She disappears when you're vulnerable and comes back the moment she senses you're pulling away, not out of love, but out of fear of losing the power she holds over you. The truth reveals itself when you stop chasing, when you pull back, when you replace desperation with silence. That's when real love shows up. Because someone who truly loves you won't run from your self-control. They'll stay. The greatest test of love doesn't happen when you give in. It happens when you stand firm, when you say no, when you step out of the game, and she still chooses to stay, still chooses to respect, still chooses to care, because real love doesn't fear your strength. It admires it, it grows from it, it anchors itself in it. And in the end, you'll realize someone who truly loves you will never require you to lose yourself to be loved. She loves you for the man you are, firm, present, and whole. Seneca once said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering because of someone else's choices is ignorance." And maybe you've suffered for someone who said she loved you. Maybe you lay in silence waiting for a message that never came. Maybe you blamed yourself, shrank, adapted. Maybe you believed that love was exactly that, this back and forth between presence and neglect. But now, right now, you need to know, a woman who truly loves you will never put you in constant doubt. She won't make you walk on eggshells. She won't test you until you're drained. She won't use love as a bargaining chip to keep you around. She won't vanish at your most fragile moment, only to return once she senses she's losing control. She won't leave you in pieces just to feel whole again. She won't toy with your dignity to validate her ego. If she truly loves you, you'll feel peace, you'll feel safe, you'll feel solid ground. And more than anything, you'll feel like you can be who you are, without begging, without proving, without shrinking. You'll feel like you're with a woman, not with an emotional test disguised as a relationship. And if what you're living is the opposite of that, then the answer is right in front of you. Clear, simple, silent. Don't fool yourself. Don't rationalize it. Don't carry hope like a shield to endure pain, because a man who loves himself first will never be left on the sidelines. He might be left, but he'll never be forgotten, because the presence of a man who respects himself is felt even in his silence. And self-control, that's the greatest detector of real love. When you choose to value yourself, truth shows up. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the kind of man who no longer accepts anything less than real love. No games, no disguised absences, no pretty phrases covering empty actions. You don't need to ask if she loves you. The answer has always been in her actions, and now it's in yours too.